What's happening, everybody? Happy Friday to you. John Hendricks coming at you with another episode of The Drive here on Boot Krewe Media, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. A lot of Saints stuff is happening, right? And again, we kind of went through this euphoria of, the combine to Derek Carr to all these things that are happening and a lot of things in between. But obviously, Friday, some big news has kind of dropped a little bit for the Saints. And let's start with one of the bigger ones. The moves that they actually made was JT Gray getting signed to a 3-year contract extension ahead of free agency. Good move for the Saints. Obviously, he's been a very important special teams player for them. And look, they needed the safety depth, right? They have Daniel Sorensen, Justin Evans, and PJ Williams all set to hit free agency. So important to get Gray a contract extension, good for 3 years. Nice little deal to reward him. He's got some incentives built in there, particularly on playing time and such. So we'll see how that obviously plays out for New Orleans as they continue to build their roster up after getting Derek Carr. Look, and they made other priorities like keeping their own, and I expect more of those to come. Tano Passignon was a guy that they re-signed, before free agency, making sure that they kind of help shore up that defensive end position. So, look, I think more of those moves are going to come. Wednesday is going to be the big day, right? Free agency. A lot of these guys that are set to be restricted free agents are going to hit the market. Saints just aren't in a space where they can really tag these guys and be able to carry and afford those when they have to work with a cap and such. But, we'll see how they tackle it. I think guys like Juwan Johnson are a huge priority. Guys like Malcolm Roach, Shai Tuttle, those guys that they probably want to look at bringing back, on the defensive interior. But they're going to just have to figure out and see how the things are with the market and see where they end up falling. So what I am interested to see is some of these guys, see if they follow Ryan Nielsen, right, to the Falcons. That'll be something to pay attention to. I think that's pretty big bet that you could have at least one or two guys follow Nielsen over to Atlanta. But at any rate, the other big shoe to drop is that the door is not closed on Jameis Winston right now. And so, look, ESPN's Diana Rossini had reported today that the Saints had pitched him a renegotiated, restructured contract. Obviously, it's going to be lower, but just to be to come back to New Orleans and potentially be their backup to Derek Carr. And so, look, I think this is a kind of a you see how things went with Jameis and the Saints last year. Obviously, didn't end well for either party and such, but this is a chance where if Winston doesn't feel like he's going to be able to make a starting role or really want to be in a position to compete, I think that's probably the best insurance policy the Saints could have if they were able to get Winston back in the building. Now, obviously, Winston has a couple of days to mull it over, maybe the weekend. But look, I know that Winston, in talking with him in the locker room, look, he's been a supportive guy. He's been there through thick and thin. Obviously, things have not gone the way that has he's wanted to the past couple of years with the ACL injury, and then obviously last year getting hurt, and then just obviously not being able to get back in the starting lineup. But it'll be interesting to see because other options, we talked about the connection in the Commanders with Ken Zampese over in Washington, that Andy Dalton could end up going there. Teddy Bridgewater could be an option in free agency. Maybe they look at a Jacoby Brissett. But look, the Saints are going to need those backup plans. And look, they want to get some flexible options. Even with Michael Thomas, the door not being closed on there, they're working towards contract negotiations on that as well. So, could be getting some of the band back together. Look, I think Jameis has had a lot of roller coaster of emotions that have gone through all of this. But look, if New Orleans can get him back, I think that's a solid backup plan to Derek Carr. Because look, there's not going to be a controversy at quarterback. Carr's going to start all these games. He's going to start unless he's absolutely injured and such. So I don't think there's anything to make of that. But we'll see how it plays out. Going to talk to Derek Carr very soon, in the very soon, not so distant future. So we're going to be really interested to see what he has to say when it comes to joining the Saints and get his big introductory press conference. Until then, be sure to keep it tuned to Boot Krewe Media for the latest and greatest. Don't forget to use that code BOOT. I always got to figure out where it's at on the screen. Don't forget to use that code BOOT for your chance to get some free promo money from DraftKings Sportsbook. Bet on the Pelicans, NHL season, March Madness is here, all that fun stuff. So a lot of things that you could potentially get your fix on. Don't forget to use that code BOOT. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.